Was that good?
Amazing.
It is, and we started recording, everybody. So
But we didn't even check Lauren.
We were just assuming
good.
I'm fine?
She's on there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Depression Vacation Podcast. Because we have so many times where we'll just talk for like 10 minutes beforehand, I randomly sometimes just start recording people early.
Hal pulled a little trickaroo on me.
I just wanted the world to hear your voice, Ryan. So, see, we didn't even introduce the guests we have. So
Hello.
I'm Shannon.
I'm Hal.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Lauren.
Yeah, and today we're doing couples.
Double Date the Podcast.
Yeah, Double Date Depression Vacation. Because Ryan has been an off member of the podcast. And Lauren, we've tried to get on a couple of times, but tragedy has befallen her pretty much every single time.
I'm always falling down or coughing or something dumb is happening.
Yeah.
Stop that.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
So yeah, welcome to the Depression Vacation Podcast. It's been a nice week outside. Everything is looking good. Spring has sort of sprung. The temperatures have evened out a little bit back to where they were supposed to be normally.
Don't jinx it.
I love to jinx it.
And then it snowed next week, and we all blamed Hal.
I will. If that happens, it's your fault.
I accept blame too easily. Why are you guys doing this to me?
Hal, if you could not do that, I'm trying to grow green beans. So.
The accepting blame thing too, like I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but that is something that I've been my entire life very easily coaxed into doing, is accepting blame for things that I didn't like. A good example is like every summer we would rent a house up in like Biddeford Pool, Maine, and it would be like my cousins, my family, and like a big Kramer cousin palooza up there. And there's one year that like two of my cousins broke a window in the game room there, just like in a door going from the main room to the other area. And they convinced me to take the blame for it. And I was like crying and everything about it. I was like 7 years old at this point too. And then eventually like one of my cousins went to my parents and said, no, that didn't happen. The other two broke it. And my parents had a long discussion about why did you let them accept blame? Like that's even more troublesome than breaking the window.
I was just very easily gaslit as a child to where something bad would happen and my older brothers would blame me and I'd be like, I guess I did it and forgot.
Yeah, this is kind of how this was, like a gaslighting scenario. So
I was the bully in my family.
I can tell.
I know. I'm an oldest child. So that's the problem.
I'm an oldest child and I'm not a bully. Well, I had bully times, so I guess that checks out.
Listen, well, how about you? You're a middle child.
I'm a middle child, so I was bullied, and so I knew the consequences of such actions. And so I made sure to do the same thing for my little sister.
Just passing it down.
Hey, lower your mic just a little bit as we're talking on the air there. There, that'll get your voices a little bit better.
La, 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 la,
We have to
la.
share mics today because this is the most people we've ever had on the podcast.
This is amazing. I'm so excited we finally did this.
I know. We had a lot of, like we said, a lot of near misses, but Lauren is finally officially a friend of the podcast. She always was a friend of the podcast.
Everyone's a friend of the podcast, even people who don't listen to us yet.
Yeah, but we've been steadily growing in numbers. We're averaging like 30-ish a listen at this point, which
Nice.
Dang.
you know, when we were starting out, like if we got 10 per episode, that was pretty good.
Yeah, we've set the bar pretty low for this thing.
Yeah, it needs time to grow. Also, we don't do any promotion for it whatsoever. So
Yeah, I know, because we suck.
I think that's also kind of the charm. I mean, if you had a huge audience, would you be as candid as you are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
well, you,
for sure.
I mean,
I just assume everyone and their mother listens to my podcast.
I
Yeah.
love your confidence.
Well, and I just found, so shout out to Keenan, who is an old coworker of mine who listens to my podcast that I just found
Keenan
out
Mitchell?
about.
Or no, Keenan Thompson? I mixed up Keenan and Kel there. So
I think Keenan Perry. Yeah. I know too many Keenans, which is weird because I didn't know I'd know so many Keenans. But like the other day, somebody brought it up to me that entirely outside of somebody had said to him like, "Oh yeah, Shannon's helping us out," and he's like, "Oh, I love Shannon. I listen to her podcast." I'm like, "What? What? This is crazy."
thankfully, my parents can't figure out how to listen to the podcast. They know it exists because they read my Facebook posts. But yeah, they can't figure out how to actually listen to it.
I know for sure Ryan's parents don't listen to my podcast because they like the posts every once in a while.
And you're like, if they knew, they definitely wouldn't like it.
If they knew how many blowjobs we were discussing on
my
this, they would do so.
I think it's more like the language, because we've established that it's an explicit podcast.
Oh yeah, this is the fucking Depression Vacation. Although I think blowjob would have done the same thing.
Yeah, my parents would listen and be like, wait a second, She's not even talking about her son.
I love Ryan's mom. She is the most comedic member of the family. She cracks me up all the time. When Ryan and I first met, a couple weeks into meeting, we finally made it official. And I had already met his parents like in week 3 of
something like that.
of like talking. I think I met his parents the same day I met. No.
The same day you met him?
No.
No.
This is like an old Italian courtship. You're going to meet the parents the same day.
No, but
I don't know why I sound like a grizzled 1840s prospector as I'm talking about Sicily.
So we finally break it to his mom. We say, hey.
Break it to his mom.
We're
Mom,
like,
I have
I have
bad
some
news.
terrible news.
I'm in a relationship.
I know this is going to be hard to hear.
I know. And his mom like looks at us and she goes, you guys are more than friends? What? And I was just like, you stinker. She's
Well, that's
just
how
so
I
funny.
introduced Shannon.
That-
to my
yeah.
parents. I was like,
Friend.
This is my
This is
friend.
my friend, Shannon.
Yep. We totally don't kiss and stuff.
This is Shannon's special secret afternoon time friend.
If you can work that into your vows somehow.
I'd love to.
Ryan,
Oh,
you are
man.
my favorite special secret afternoon time friend. You do not smell like cigarettes.
Oh
and that
my
is
gosh.
good.
I'm like looking forward to the speeches, like what your dad is gonna say, what my dad is gonna say. That's a whole other can of worms. We don't know what that's gonna
Well, I
be
mean,
like.
my dad is going to be like, and God, Jesus bless you on your journey together in life. And your dad will be like, guys, I hope your fucking's great. Best of luck to you in that.
You'd be like, try not to get divorced, Shannon. I know that that's all you know at this point, but I also think that we should take bets on like how long your dad will make it into the speech without like bursting into tears.
Aww,
I give it
that's-
5
he's a-
seconds.
he's such a
And
big
that's being
softie.
generous.
Aw, that's really sweet. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, his family is like super emotionally available and I love it. It's amazing.
It is a good skill to have.
I don't think I know any adults like that.
Aw. It's taken me a while to get super emotionally available, and I still feel like I'm not great at it sometimes. Like, it's not a perfect thing.
He's very funny because when he finds himself doing something that is like emotionally stable and healthy, he's like, what is this? What's happening? I don't
Same.
recognize this. And I'm like, I got it. Me too.
Is this what normal people are supposed to do?
I don't know. I've never met one.
Yeah, I've never been a normal person, as much as I've tried to pretend I was for so many years.
Yeah, so this is a fun experiment.
Oh yeah, totally. Did you have a normal childhood, Lauren?
Oh, God, no. What a ridiculous question.
But listen here, Ryan here has like no childhood trauma to speak of. He's like a unicorn. It's crazy.
It's true. I had a supportive family that wasn't divorced. You know, I had some siblings that only
What do you talk
bullied
about at
me a little.
holidays?
How much they love each other.
yeah, positive
Aw.
things.
Aw.
So I grew up Jewish in central Pennsylvania, which is a very
sorry.
weird place. Thanks.
Not just central Pennsylvania, but like Schuylkill County.
Well, I
right?
grew up in Lebanon and Lancaster County,
okay, yeah.
which is, I mean, at the time it was kind of the same thing.
Oh, that's right, because you went to Manheim Central. Yeah.
And then moved up to Schuylkill County. And so for like most of my childhood, I was the first Jew that anyone had met. So that was fun. I spent a lot of time educating Gentile children on like how Hanukkah started.
Yeah, we basically had no. I mean, I went to Catholic school, so there were obviously no Jewish people there. Although I've mentioned, like, my friend Hamza was the only Muslim kid in our high school, so we did have a little bit of diversity there. Although that was not easy for him. But one thing, I don't know how you feel about this, Lauren, but I've mentioned to my coworker Deb, who's a very sweet Jewish woman. I actually do know the process basically for Seders because they ran a Seder every single Easter in our Catholic school. And this makes Deb furious. Like, she really, she calls it essentially like cultural appropriation for Catholics against the Jews.
I wouldn't mind if it was like an evangelical church or something. They're not hurting anybody, but like the Catholics.
Okay, hold on. Let's backtrack a second. Evangelical church is not hurting anybody. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that was very broad.
Hold on.
That
I gotta
was very
fact-
broad.
I gotta fact check that one.
So
check.
institutionally, they are less harmful than Catholics.
All right, fair enough.
I probably should have been more specific there.
Yeah, we just learned from the Fix before we came over. The Catholic Church has an operating budget of $170 billion in the U.S. alone every single year.
Assets of the Catholic Church includes like all of the artwork in the Vatican. Like it's not just money. It's not just like
Yeah.
tithing. It's also all of the physical assets of the incredibly old, valuable like artifacts
Yeah.
that they own.
And the
like,
land, too.
Yeah, the
Like-
land and buildings.
Yes.
Like that was a big component I remember from the founder of why McDonald's is one of the richest companies. Is they realized they weren't in the burger business, they were in the land business. And if McDonald's is a super billionaire company because of the land business, imagine what the Catholic Church owns worldwide.
So my dad was a big time conspiracy theorist. I mean,
Love that for him.
but wait, there's more. So he was very like, I grew up with an intense fear of the Catholic Church.
As you should.
Which
As
is
you
fair.
should.
Which
Yeah.
is fair.
That tracks.
There is some truth to it, and there's some like meh to it. Like
He ghost wrote a book when I was a child with a friend of his called Vatican Assassins, Wounded in the House of My Friends, and it is about the Jesuit conspiracy to murder JFK, who prior to Biden was the only Catholic president. I read 300 pages. I read that whole book. I still don't understand any of it. But that was very much the vibe in our house, is that Catholics are scary. Alexander Dumas novels are horror stories. like... So,
The Three Musketeers? What?
Which is
No.
interesting because, like, I bring this up every time Richelieu is the answer to a Jeopardy question, which is often a lot of the, like, weirdly enough, a lot of the figures in literature of Catholic Church, like, evil, were not really terrible people in real life. Like, Richelieu was actually a very competent statesman, I was reading, and was not, like, the Bond villain that the Three Musketeers have made him out to be. Same with who was the cardinal who was Cardinal Wolsey for Henry VIII was another popular like boogeyman in culture who was actually not, according to like things, as bad in real life as you would think.
Oh no, he was shit.
I mean, they were all shit, but
Yeah.
like
Who's that pope that liked to watch horses fuck?
every one of them.
Oh, right.
Well, here's the thing about the Three Musketeers.
I thought we were going to go on a horse's fucking tangent. But
No,
okay.
it was a fantastic film. I loved that movie. Kiefer Sutherland. What was the,
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oliver Is it Oliver
Gerard-
Platt?
Yeah, Oliver
Oliver
Platt.
Platt,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, oh gosh, who was the handsome one?
Oh, Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah.
I kept wanting to say Hayden Christensen, and I knew that wasn't right.
I have a soft spot for Chris O'Donnell because he was like,
Yeah.
he was like a young heartthrob for a while. Made a
Whatever
couple of,
happened to him?
well, Batman and Robin derailed him a little bit, but also he took like 10 years off because he like had a family and wanted to raise his kids, and then got back into the game with, was it NCIS
or
Los Angeles?
CSI type of
He's
thing.
in NCIS in Los Angeles.
He's on
He's in
like
one of them.
the one with LL Cool J. He's on, and that was like.
Well, I don't know the differences between them, but
I don't watch any of these, and I know the differences between all of them.
I used to watch the original NCIS like all the time. I loved that show.
I know
Was NCIS Mark Harmon?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's the only frame of reference I have for any of it because I love Mark Harmon.
it's the Donald Bellisario ones because he's the one who produces all of the military detective shows. Like Magnum was his first show. Jag, which was something we watched a ton as kids,
My
was
mom
his.
was obsessed with Jag. My mom has VHS copies of Jag that she videotaped while it was on the air. And she has a VCR for the sole purpose of going back and rewatching these episodes of Jag. I'm like, you can buy it on DVD now. It's out there.
Yeah.
No.
So I get a kick out of people who are like popular culturally aware.
Oh man, you must love me then.
Because like people will just be like, oh, you know this movie? Oh yeah, John Smith was in that, and Jane Doe, and I'll be like, who?
This is what not having an emotionally scarring childhood does to you. You don't have to consume as much media.
Yeah.
I have the pop culture awareness of like a 60-year-old woman. Like Pierce Brosnan, he's so dreamy. Like that's kind of...
I still feel Pierce Brosnan is a pretty dreamy older man.
Yeah,
when I
he's
see
aged
him.
well.
Yeah.
I find now this is a topic I know a lot about, silver foxes. And honestly,
I'm sorry.
It's because you've ruined so many old men's lives,
I
isn't
know
it?
the vigilante strikes again. No, but how there was so many, like Steve Carell is looking pretty good nowadays.
Yeah.
He was always kind of puffy and strange, perfect for comedy.
Yeah.
And now he's actually a little bit hot, and I don't know how I feel about it.
He's been a little bit hot for a little, because even like in 40-Year-Old Virgin, like when they're waxing his chest, like he obviously had been working out at that point, had been like losing some of the chunkiness.
that means nothing to me.
It means nothing to you.
That means nothing to me. But then he had the salt and pepper thing going on, and I was
Ah.
like,
It's
the
there
salt
it
and
is.
pepper.
So what do you think about this then?
I've already told you I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. It's only on one side of my head.
It's getting a little hot in the studio here today, guys.
He's got mad scientist hair. I'm not ashamed to be into it.
I know. She says I'm like a sexy Doc Brown, 40 years older or younger.
Or 40 years older than Doc Brown.
I mean, if you think
Does
about
anyone
it,
know
You
how
mean
old Doc
dead?
Brown's supposed to be?
well, if you think about it, Doc Brown looks pretty much, Christopher Lloyd looks pretty much the same now as he did in Back to the Future, which was like 40 years ago at
He's
this point.
starting to feel it, though. I
Yeah.
can see it in his eyes.
I've heard he's on Mandalorian this season, and I haven't really watched a lot of it yet. So
I've given up on The Mandalorian. I realized. So here's my problem. Have I talked about this before?
No, but please.
All right,
By all means.
let me tell you something.
Ooh, she took the full mic away from Ryan. There will be no Ryan
Buckle
rebuttal.
up.
Coffee break.
Now, here, drink a ginger ale. Now, listen. Here's what I can't stand about Marvel at this point and Star Wars at this point.
I think
And
I'm going to agree with this.
there is too much fucking content.
Yes.
You can't I know there are people out there who are, but the fact that I have to watch 90 different shows and movies and all sorts of things to understand what's going on, I despise it now. And not all of them are good, so I have to sit through really bad shit so I can watch the really good shit. And I don't like that.
Yeah, I've made it through because this was the phase where things started. I watched yes, give Ryan the mic back.
Thank you.
Now you can share again.
I watched WandaVision, enjoyed it okay. It took me a while to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I really liked, but it took like 2 months.
I haven't watched it.
I
just
watched like
haven't
half
been
of
good.
Loki, and then I realized all the 7 other shows coming out. I'm like, this feels more like homework than it does.
Exactly.
See, I have been into like Marvel and DC and Star Wars since I was very, very small. And so because of that, I feel an intense loyalty to it. And like at this point, it's a not insignificant portion of my personality. So it has become homework, but I was also a nerd who really liked homework in school. So they're like, here's an umpteenth Marvel movie. It looks exactly the same as the last 40 Marvel movies. And I'm like, I'm going to see it on the first day and I'm going to watch it 12 times and I can't wait.
The movies aren't really what fatigued me mostly. It was the show. I was
Yeah.
already fatigued on movies, but I could sit down and watch an hour and a half movie pretty easily. But having to watch 10 episodes of Moon Knight, Mrs. Marvel, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, and I hear these are all really good shows too, but it's just
They're not all really good shows.
This
huh?
is like She-Hulk was good.
No, you did not hear that.
I thought I heard She-Hulk was good.
You
So
heard me tell you that She-Hulk was fun, and that
Okay.
is not the same.
that is a definitive possibility.
There's-
Ryan and I were having the same conversation about fun versus good.
Yeah, there's this. There was a popular Marvel movie that came out a little while ago. I haven't seen it.
Just one.
Yeah.
The rest of them had been
Endgame?
flagging.
Endgame.
It was
yeah.
called, I think.
Oh yeah, Endgame
Yeah.
was really the last. That was the last Marvel movie I feel like I had any sort of emotional connection to, because it really was the swan song for all of the major players that made the MCU a thing for a while.
And I think that's part of not the mistake, because naturally they're going to age out and have to do something else. And
Robert Downey Jr. was also way too expensive for them
Yeah.
to keep using.
But I think the mistake was trying to keep it all in exactly the same universe. It's like they already set up the Avengers, and now we're attached to the Avengers. And so now we're just watching the universe in the aftermath of the Avengers. And it's like, what? Why don't we just talk about somebody else for a change?
Yeah.
It's kind of like all the Spider-Man origin story movies.
Yeah,
like,
we don't
get it.
I forget who said this, but they were talking about both Spider-Man and Batman, and they were like, I don't need to see. They were talking specifically about the MCU Spider-Man movies, how they completely didn't even do the Uncle Ben storyline.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we've seen Uncle Ben die 50 times at this point. And same with, I don't need to see Bruce Wayne's parents get killed at gunpoint outside of that theater anymore. I think the only exception was I liked how Zack Snyder did it in Batman vs. Superman, because we know how it happens, and it was just a quick snapshot during the opening credits. Just to, I guess, give a visual reminder. That wasn't necessary, but at least he only spent 10 seconds on it.
Just in case you guys forgot.
Yeah, just
I'm also pretty detached from Batman's origin story at this point. Like, when it does come up, I'm like, oh, that's right. His parents were murdered. He's not just bored. Okay.
Well, yeah, but that you're also kind of put off by the fact that he's insanely rich, and I feel like when his parents do pass away, yes, he's close with them, but as he grows up, you can kind of, I mean, his entire arc moves away from the whole parents' trauma thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you don't really feel bad for him at this point.
Yeah.
That's why I liked Batman Beyond, because it was old grizzled Batman that Yeah, and that's partly what I liked about the Affleck Batman too, was like it was clearly a Batman who has seen a lot of shit over the years. Like this was a huge argument I had with my brother-in-law because more than anything he hated that version of Batman shot and killed people. And I was like, it's an interesting different take because yeah, it goes against the core of Batman, but it's also like the get off my lawn Gran Torino Batman as opposed to young Christian Bale.
It's also
Yeah.
just more effective. Like Batman just tying up villains and leaving them there and being like, all right, Gordon, you got this now. And Gordon's just like, yeah, this isn't admissible in court. I can't use this.
Yeah, one of my favorite like things to, because a lot of people do like legal analyses of not just superhero movies but all movies now, and one of them is like the clear rendition that Batman performs in The Dark Knight, where he takes Lee and like brings him back from Hong Kong, and they're like, there is no way that person would not be returned to Hong Kong immediately without an international disaster that would probably end up in a war.
When I was reading The Sandman, yeah, so
Oh my god.
it was really fun because there was a point, and I don't know if it's in the comic because I listened to the audiobook.
I could tell
but-
you if it's in the comic.
Okay, well, they were talking about what's his name? Shit, like the villain in like the second half of the first.
Is this John D, like Dr. D?
Yeah,
Yeah, because he's actually, like, they don't reference him by name in Sandman, but he's actually Dr. Destiny, I think? Yeah.
Yes. So there's like an interaction between him and another prisoner, and they're talking about like escaping or something like that. And the other prisoner's just like, well, you'll be back. You'll always come back.
You don't remember who this other prisoner is?
Oh, is it Scarecrow?
It's Scarecrow, yeah. I was going to say, it's a very famous other prisoner. Because that was when they were still, like, DC was trying to make Sandman into a huge crossover. Because they also have a couple of Green Lantern asides in that section, too. Because he does go to, like, the Justice League, what it became after everybody left. And there is one appearance of Batman with no dialogue in a flashback in one panel in the preceding Sandman when he's talking about where his Ruby is. Because you see it's Batman and Green Lantern tying up Dr. D, essentially.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought Sandman was a Spider-Man villain.
That's a different Sandman.
Neil Gaiman Sandman they're talking about.
Morpheus, the god of dreams.
There's too many Sandmen.
Well, there's even two Sandmen in DC, which they openly acknowledge in the Sandman, like stuff. Like in the first or second issue of Sandman, they address the fact that Wesley Dodd was already a Sandman, and that he's just being inspired by the fact that Morpheus is being taken out. So, and they bring him back for one issue, like way later on in the series. I could talk about Sandman for hours.
They can't call it like Grain Man, you know.
To be honest, they rarely refer to Morpheus as the Sandman in the comics. It's almost always Morpheus or one of like the 1,000 other names the God of Dreams has.
Or even just Dream.
Yeah, Dream is actually the most common that they refer to him as, I think, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really enjoyed the show.
Me too. I was not expecting, because Sandman has been teased so many times, like looking at you, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and like all these other times, and because it was such good source material that usually gets fucked up when people adapt that, I was not expecting a ton from Tom Sturridge's Sandman, and I thought it was actually like the expansion of the Corinthian as a villain was really good, and the only one I wasn't a huge fan of was the All Night Diner episode, because they toned down the like sickening debauchery of that considerably, and that was always what, like, I'm not usually a huge fan of huge debauchery in comics, but the sheer like magnitude of it in the comic was so shocking that it was a really scary issue of that.
So when I read that, I was listening to it on audiobook. So I got to hear it described.
Yeah.
Which was, I was like...
maybe worse.
Well, I was sitting in my car, like in the drive-thru somewhere, and I was like, oh my God. And I like paused it when I got to the window. I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So, and honestly... as we were going through the Sandman in my book club, which I haven't gone to in like 4 months. The last time I went to book club was the weekend we got engaged.
Oh, wow.
So, it's
so a year?
like 7 months.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of criticisms from the people in my book club about how violent and like debaucherous it was, especially in that scene.
Yeah, I don't think there's another issue that's quite as bad as that entire issue, but I think it makes sense within the context of what's going on, because it is like John Dee using And even like the issue directly after it where he's like ruining people, like I know Lauren will feel this about this, but like they show like clips of or one panel of everybody losing their minds, and one of them is like a guy taking a club iron to a pack of dogs, and I'm like, no, like
Doggo.
so many horrible things. Yeah,
Poor doggo.
yeah, but they set the world back after he gets defeated, so it's okay.
Yay,
it never
doggo.
happened.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, you have any thoughts on the Sandman, Lauren?
I read the graphic novel like years and years ago. I still haven't watched the show without falling asleep, which is not a reflection of the show. I'm just very sleepy.
It's
all the
actually
time.
within the world, so
Yeah. So
She's just very susceptible to the source material.
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I don't have a lot to add here. I have slept through most of my interactions with Sandman, which again, not a reflection on Sandman.
I thought the casting for Morpheus was like spot on.
Yeah.
Like, where did they find this man?
I have no idea where Tom Sturridge came from. He had the greatest. His voice is exactly what I pictured Dream's voice to be, like very deep, foreboding. There was other inspired casting too, like Patton Oswalt was great as in an expanded Matthew the Raven. I wasn't exactly sure initially why they went with Joanna Constantine instead of John Constantine, but I realized that if they were aging it up like they did by about 40 years, John Constantine would not be like the young person at that point. It really would be Joanna Constantine. So
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, like all the other changes they made were, I was really excited for Dr. D because I thought John Thulis or David Thulis would be
Yes.
like really scary, and he wasn't really that scary, but they
It was
didn't
a
really ask
little-
him to be.
It was a little anticlimactic, I thought, because I agree. I enjoy David Thewlis as an actor.
Yeah, like specifically after seeing him in Fargo season 3, where like his teeth were protruding and like he was a disgusting like British man in that series. I thought that they were going to make him into like full terror John D, but they didn't go that way. It's okay.
Well, we're way outside of Ryan's wheelhouse right now.
Let's talk games then, Ryan, because you know who else is a big game fan?
What kind of narrow this down? Are we talking board games? Are we talking video? What are you setting me up for here?
We could talk board games because Ryan likes all games.
All right,
basically.
I do like all games.
I mean,
this week on the Depression Vacation podcast, we're going to talk about Risk Lord of the Rings.
I played this and I won the one time I played it.
Were you the bad guys? Because
I don't remember actually.
we determined they have an unfair advantage.
Maybe because
Ryan thinks they have an unfair advantage.
Did I ever tell you about this, Laura? My game of Lord of the Rings Risk. Oh, I guess I
You
have not.
have not. Say more right now.
So when I used to work at the racetrack, like basically the way it would work is that we would shoot a race and then we would do nothing for like 20 minutes while they were setting up for the next race. So like we did a lot of nerdy things in our background time. Like I had a copy of Tactics Ogre that we would draft like teams and play against each
You
other.
were playing that you played Risk at work?
Yeah, we had a game
How
of.
long was your shift?
This took several weeks.
Okay.
We played, so I brought in Lord of the Rings Risk, which, as you know, is a greatly expanded version. There's like 80 countries that you can take over in it. There were 3 of us. It was my boss, Jerry, my friend, Harry, and me. And I really feel like this game took about a month of nights working to defeat. And Harry still thinks I cheated to this day because a lot of, like, I just was able to overtake him in a couple of areas that I probably shouldn't have in Risk. Some of it was luck. Some of it was... This is why Ryan's saying he thinks that the bad guys have an unfair advantage matches up with what Harry thought about that game. Because he clearly played the game better than I did, and I still won.
Hey,
So,
Hal, just between friends,
Yes.
did you cheat?
I did not cheat.
Are you sure?
I don't cheat at games.
Wow, what a
it's
nerd.
no fun. Yeah. You guys cheat at
Square.
games?
I think it's not cheating. What Ryan and I do
It's not cheating. We just don't follow the
is
rules.
disagree on the rules. And so sometimes we have to have like house rules because we just can't agree on how something's supposed to run. So we just like kind of just do our own thing sometimes.
If
That's why
everybody
it's-
agrees to the set rules, that's not cheating, though.
That's why there's almost no one in the world it's safe to play Monopoly with.
Yeah,
Too many house rules.
Oh my god, there was
Very too much.
Some of my friends had this weird house rule with Monopoly that I made this a hill to die on because I thought this was the dumbest fucking thing in the world. They're like, oh, the way we play it is nobody can acquire property the first go around on the board.
What?
And I was like, why? It's like, oh, it evens it out because if somebody rolls a little bit too far, everybody gets a fair shot. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It just basically prorates the bad luck over one turn where everybody's super bored because you can't do anything. Or I guess like 10 or 11 turns.
I mean, if
That's
you've
so
got
dumb.
10
I
days
thought it was
to
the
kill,
dumbest
I guess.
fucking house rule I've ever heard. So
Ryan and I have gotten like our Monopoly playing down to a science. Like our
It
games.
takes like an hour for us to play Monopoly.
I feel like that should be like a dedicated session in couples counseling. Like, if you want to make this relationship work, you need clearly defined rules for how you're going to play Monopoly together.
Yeah.
Here you go, guys. Play Monopoly. You get an hour. If you don't finish,
Ooh, speed Monopoly.
you have
Okay.
to break up.
So I'm curious, what are your house rules then for Monopoly?
Well, one thing we disagreed with at first was free parking, because the way
yeah.
I always grew up was all of like the taxes and things would go into the middle, and then if you landed on free parking, you got all the money. And Ryan was not familiar with that rule.
Yeah, like all the taxes, all the chance and community chests, and usually we would throw $550 in there as a basis just to sweeten the pot if you landed on free parking. So
We have this fun game where Shannon will say, no, this is how the game is played. And then I'll say no. And then she'll say, oh, yeah. And I'll say, do you want to read the rule book? And she'll say, yeah, I want to read the rule book. And then
Okay,
I'll
he's so full of shit. He does the same thing.
And then I'll show her the part where it says, no, that is not how you play.
And then you fight back by going, but that's always how I played, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
yeah, I feel like Monopoly is probably the king of house rules because there's so many.
I don't know, Uno?
Uno was something else that came to mind because I had somebody else I played Uno with for a while that her big sticklerhood was you could not stack anything. Like you were not allowed to stack draw twos on draw twos or draw fours on draw fours. And I understand that is a house rule, but I was kind of like, or another one too was that, which was an actual rule that she told me, you can't play a wild card unless you have literally nothing else to play. Which
Boring.
I think that's boring too. Like having a draw two in your hand to be able to stack or counter a draw two adds a little bit more strategy to the game because you think twice about maybe trying to make somebody draw two. Was not a fan of the. As has been noted in a couple of stand-up routines for mine as well, she's a therapist who played Feelings Uno with a lot of client. Have you ever heard this bit, Shannon? That
I
did?
think I have.
Yeah, because
Feelings.
Uno games go on for fucking ever. And the way that she would do these is, if you play a green card, say something that makes you happy, yellow, something that makes you apprehensive, red, something mad, and or blue, something sad. By the end of those Uno games, you have nothing to fucking talk about, and you're just manic and crying because you've said every bad thing that's happened to you in your life, but everything that you're happy about at the same time and nervous, and you just run out of things to talk about because Uno games go on for fucking ever.
Suddenly you're at a party and the Uno deck comes out and you have like a trauma response.
PTSD from Uno.
PTSD. Oh my gosh. Now Ryan and I love to incorporate alcohol into our board games.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so
Europe.
Monopoly, we'll play House Party Monopoly. So if you land on the other person's property, you have to drink. But then again, it comes to the point where far enough into the game, we just both drink when someone lands on a property, and then when all the properties are gotten, it's a much more fun game of Monopoly.
And then we wake up the next morning and we're like, who won?
A friend of mine and I, we play Drunken Trivial Pursuit a lot.
Yes, my favorite thing. Ryan hates Trivial Pursuit, but I love it.
Boo.
But the edition of Trivial Pursuit that we play with is like 60 years old.
Okay, he doesn't hate it. He's just not very good at it.
Yeah,
And-
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go.
If you play with a very old edition of Trivial Pursuit, like facts have changed, it turns out. So a lot of that information is not accurate anymore. So even if you give a right answer, it probably wasn't the right answer in like 1963 when the board game came out.
You
or
just
something.
reminded me of like my parents, because I was a terrible student because school bored me and I did not fit well into educational things. My parents sent me for a lot of like learning deficiency classes at the Sylvan Learning Center, which was one of the most condescending things I ever had to do as a 16-year-old. And also like, it was a waste of hours during summer. But all the stuff that they had at this learning center was from like the 50s and 60s. And so like one of the cards, for instance, that I had to like read through and identify like all of the nouns, pronouns, etc. I was 16, by the way, when they made me do all these things, was about one day man will land on the moon and it will be glorious. We will be able to escape velocity from the Earth and be able to colonize the moon within 20 years of landing on it. And it was clearly something. It was also, another one of them was like, one day we will have automatic stoplights and we'll not have people at the stoplights having to direct traffic by changing them manually.
We played like a knockoff Trivial Pursuit once. Wasn't real Trivial Pursuit. It was just random trivia, I guess, in a board game form. And one of the questions that we got was, how old is the Soviet Union?
0 years old at this point?
And that really set the tone for the rest of the game. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is I have never played Trivial Pursuit while sober, is where I was going.
Let's do this sometime. Game night suggestion.
Yeah, Depression Vacation Podcast Drunk Trivia Edition. We love that.
Well, actually, we went to the museum a couple of days ago, and we saw Josh Wallace's boyfriend there, and had a really nice chat with him about a number of things. But like the thing I've been trying to do forever is getting together like a couples game night. It's for instance, and he was like, "Yes, we need to do this," because apparently Wallace is a big board gamer too, and has somehow kept this a secret from me for all the years I've known him.
We went on a big bender like a month or two ago where we just bought every board game that looked remotely interesting to us. And so now we just have this stack of board games that we still haven't, like, I spent an irresponsible sum of money on some of these board games and we haven't touched them yet.
I found Kill Shakespeare still wrapped on my shelf this morning while you were showering.
$60.
Yes.
Oh gosh. My dad, well, growing up, we were huge board game people. We used to have board game nights all the time as a family. My dad constantly, we always hosted board game nights and things like that. So my dad, and he has like a huge shelf, like a the ones you keep in your basement for like storage.
Yeah.
It's filled with board games. He's a huge board game guy, and so that's rubbed off on me. And like there are games that I have that I'm like, this is the best game ever, and nobody ever wants to play with me because just not everybody's into board games.
Maybe we should make this into a regular thing then, because Lauren's mouth is open with how much she wants to say how much she's into board games.
Well, no, not just that, but there's also there's a spectrum of board games I've found.
Oh,
where,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I had someone new start at work and I, asked her what she likes to do in her spare time and she's like, oh, I love like board games. And I'm like, yes, my people. And like, I'm like, what kind of board games do you like? What's your favorite? And we're going off on a tangent and she's like, I just kind of meant like categories.
Oh, we love categories.
I do love categories, but I'm also like a big fan of needlessly intricate board games.
Oh, yeah, that's my dad all over. My friend, my maid of honor at Cassie, she's been pulling for us all to play Ticket to Ride. That's her.
I've seen this for sale a bunch of times because they do a lot of different versions of Ticket to Ride too.
game.
Because of my train party.
It's because of the train party. Oh my God, Ryan, we had a party that was train themed, and so we bought like these little train conductor hats and these whistles, and that was
adorable.
And when I made the invitation, I said BYOTTR, bring your own ticket to ride. And someone actually brought ticket to ride.
Yeah. And so the other thing about it is, too, I've lost my train of thought.
Choo-choo.
Your train of thought. Yeah, look at that. That's the only joke we've made so far today. What are we doing? Failing.
We made some jokes.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait, this is a comedy podcast?
It was supposed to start off that way, but then we just started talking about depressing things.
Well,
and
you
now it's
have
become
really
our
lost the
brand.
thread.
Yeah.
Wow, the Depression Vacation Podcast losing their thread. That's unheard of.
There is no thread. Just think of it that way.
There's just a pile of yarn and like...
It's spaghetti at this point.
like,
Just waiting for your Lady in the Tramp moment.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just hoping it connects.
Yeah.
There's a lot of board games. Like one of my coworkers who's like big into CCGs and other things, like has told me to play Munchkin forever. And
I liked Munchkin.
We bought a Disney version of Munchkin at one point that has still not been played because we need more
than two players.
Yeah.
I would play Disney Munchkin. I didn't know they had that.
Oh, and you know what I did order a couple of days ago because this was saved as one of my tabs from like 2 months ago when we talked about this was Nightmare Chess.
Oh, yeah.
I got that for like $25 because it's just a deck of cards. And then Lauren gave me a chessboard. So now we could play Nightmare Chess sometime if that's what you're interested in.
I'm always interested in games. Yeah. We found this with video games. Our friends introduced us to this lovely little gem called Boomerang Foo. Ryan,
I've heard of this, yeah.
It's wildly fun. You run around and it's like real quick rounds of trying to ninja somebody out. You got a boomerang and you can throw it at someone or slash them. And
you get to be little cute characters. Mostly their food.
their food, and they get little costumes. It's stupid adorable.
I'm in.
It's adorable.
It was $2 on the Nintendo store.
We got it on sale, but still.
Right, it was $2, so it might have gone up again, but
Yeah, I have still. Somebody has been trying to get me to download Dreamlight Valley for like $20 on Switch, which I still haven't done, but I intend to do.
I haven't been trying to talk you into it. I'm just telling you how much I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, Dreamlight Valley. Are you familiar with what this is? I understand it to be like Animal Crossing, but with Disney characters. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like a Stardew Valley, but it's Disney.
Lauren plays this pretty like a lot, so she could give you more details.
Yeah, it's very cute, very mindless. You don't have to think about it a lot, which is great for me because my brain is jelly now.
Okay.
And he sent me like an article.
So it's like Kingdom Hearts, but with farming.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the only real parallel to Kingdom Hearts is the Disney licensing here.
In places they don't belong to.
Right.
Tell them about the article though, because
So he sent me an article. I don't even remember the context
it
of
was
the
like
article.
20 most evil games
Yes.
ever made.
And one of them was Disney Dreamlight Valley. And the author was like, I find it nefarious that a major corporation like Disney, I don't even remember the full...
It was number one. It wasn't just
number
random on the
one.
list. It was number
It
one.
was so preposterous and nefarious to this writer that a major corporation like Disney had set up like this perfect utopia where everyone is a friendly neighbor and gets along, and that's not how Disney lives with the world. And I'm like, I'm just trying to have some fun.
That's first of all, I want to point out that you said your brain is jelly, and that's really funny because I have a similar saying, and I always say my brain is mashed potatoes, and we unintentionally bonded just now.
Oh, excellent.
So
I won't remember it because of the jelly brain.
See, this is what
But I'm very
couples
happy now.
podcasting does. It bonds you to other people.
Yeah. And then, so here's the thing. Going back to the whole me being pissed off with Marvel and Star Wars and all that kind of thing, I still fucking love Disney so much.
Yeah.
It's so stinking cute. Ryan and I, we were watching like the Baymax shorts on Disney Plus.
There's Baymax short. Oh, Baymax was like my favorite weird Pixar character
He's
that I
like a bunch of little stories. They're only like 10 minutes of him like helping patients and like just being unintentionally wholesome.
Are you satisfied with your service?
Yeah.
Yes,
There's a series of shorts on Disney Plus featuring Doug.
Yes, we watched
puppy
that
from-
too.
I put them on for my dog Gimli when he is stressed, and he really likes them.
I didn't know these existed until you showed the other Up series that's coming out too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know Doug because we refer to my sister's dog as Doug all the time because he's just a golden retriever who wants everybody to love him. But
Same.
I describe myself as a golden retriever a lot of the time too. So I just want people to pet me and tell me I'm pretty.
But yeah, I mean, I just have a great love for their movies, and they just make everything so adorable.
Yeah.
And now, so I'm very pissed off about Marvel and Star Wars, but Disney, we're still good. We're still okay.
One of the people that I understand like everybody from that era was a complicated human being, complicated meaning probably a terrible human being. Walt Disney is somebody I've never really been able to like significantly dislike, like despite all of the things that have come out about, like some of which I think are exaggerated, some of which are very true. Like he was particularly shitty to his workers because he was very anti-union. He himself was a workaholic, so he kind of worked his people to death and was very bitter when like iWorks, was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, iWorks is like head animator left for another studio. But like everything about Walt Disney, it seemed like he really tried to make the dream happen in the world, and that's, I don't know, there was something magical about that to me.
Well, that's like him, and isn't Dr. Seuss kind of like that too, where he wasn't like a really good person?
I think Dr. Seuss like righted himself a lot better in his later years. Like there's a lot of articles that pop up where Dr. Seuss is talking about like racism in general and just like why, it's bad and stuff like that. But it started off because he drew a lot of U.S. propaganda cartoons against the Japanese during World War II. So that's where a
Right.
lot of the Seuss problematic stuff comes from.
Gotcha.
Also some of his books too. So
Yeah. I think it's the grossest argument when people are like, oh, they were just a product of the times. But there is also, like, everyone was shitty.
Yeah.
They didn't know they were shitty yet. Like, it's not an excuse. It's just a fact.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
part
I
of
agree.
understanding the overall thing of why they did it. But it, like you said, it is not an excuse
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
Like the people we celebrate in history and everything are people who always tried to be better. So.
Right.
Right, and that's the thing, just about people in general, especially people that you admire. And I find that a lot happening today, like especially where there are people who are well known and who I admire, but they're absolutely not perfect people. So, like, example off the top of my head, like Taylor Swift. I think that she's done some problematic things over the years, but overall, I think over the last, I want to say like 2 or 3 years, like she's really stepped up as an artist and as a person.
She continues to grow. So.
She got famous when she was like 16 years old. Like, of course she was dumb about some she was 16.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you have
That's
to
a good-
learn and evolve, and eventually you become a useful person, but
That's very useful context to put into there. So
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's human, and that's so cheesy to say, but it's true. You can't say that a person is absolutely perfect. So that's kind of like where, excuse me, where people fall into. When they talk about like politicians, like when we're talking about like who we're voting for and things like that, people assume that when you're voting for a person that they are a god to you and that they can never do any wrong. But I think especially in the U.S., that's not the case, obviously. Like,
I find this to be like, and this might be reductionist, but I find it to be more of a conservative thing because for whatever reason, like, and Trump is an excellent illustration of this. Like, they didn't just throw in everything behind him. They threw in everything behind him and bought into literally all of his bullshit about him being There's a Tennessee lawman who recently tried to change John Lewis Way in Nashville to, or maybe it was Knoxville, one of the two, to Donald Trump Way, just to show like how out of touch they are and how much they held this person in a godlike esteem. And like a lot of the conservatives are like, well, what do you think of Joe Biden? I'm like, kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want from me?
I think they assume that everyone throws their weight behind their candidates the way that they do. Because now, like, obviously, I'm in Schuylkill County. I'm surrounded by conservatives. And every time Joe Biden does a weird, dumb, or questionable thing, which, let's be honest, is a lot of the time, they're like, how do you feel about Biden now? Are you glad you voted for him now? And I'm like, I'm still glad I voted for him, but he wasn't, like, my dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you see him fall down a flight of stairs? What a piece of shit. Fuck that guy.
Anyway, you can't even do stairs right. Why are you president?
you know what? Neither can I, though, and I won't fault him for that. I'm bad at stairs.
Yeah, as long as you're just not bad at not being racist or horrible, like, which debatable again with the policies of our current president, but
Sure,
Yeah.
but still, vast improvement over the previous one, so I feel good about my choice.
I 100% feel good about that choice too. In fact, we were so you're gonna love this, but because we talked about this on the podcast with Liz like a month ago, Lauren got me to watch all 3 of John Mulaney's specials within the last week.
Yes, let's talk about John Mulaney.
And
go for it.
specifically,
I will always talk about John Mulaney.
we watched what was a Comeback Kid last night, and that was
Last night was Kid Gorgeous.
Kid Gorgeous, and that was the one where he's like, "There's a horse that's loose in the hospital."
Yes,
Such a good bit.
He's so funny, and like I said, not a perfect person.
I fired the horse catcher.
Is he allowed to do
He
that?
didn't think he could do that.
I mean, and that's huge in comedy too, right? Where you want to like the people whose content you enjoy. And that's the thing is they're people, and they're certainly not perfect people. Like, I don't know. Did I tell you I watched Jim Jeffries' new special
No,
on
tell me
Netflix?
about that.
So, Jim Jeffries, I generally have liked as a comedian, and so I watched his new special. And here's the thing: I loved it. There was a couple of points where I was like, that might be a little bit too much. Like that, I don't think that was okay to say. Like there was one bit that he did where he was saying something about bulimia, and he was saying to the audience or anyone watching, he was like, "You're just doing what other people are too scared to do to lose weight. Fat girls are too scared to do." And I'm like, no, Jim, no. And I feel like it was satire and like.
You think?
Well, I'm
You
sure.
never can tell though.
I'm
with
like
some
80% sure, but
Yeah.
It was a comedy show.
right. That's the thing is like, I mean, I know comics in the local scene that I know don't actually believe in the things that they say on stage that are a little horrifying.
Ron Kane comes to mind.
I literally was just thinking of Ron. We love Ron, but
Yes.
every time he tells us he's going to stop pulling out of his daughter's best friend, I cringe just a little bit because I know he loves his wife and he doesn't fuck
his wife?
teenagers.
I actually got to know his wife pretty well, like for the period where she was coming out with him for like all of the like backdoor mics we were doing. And they're a very sweet couple. I really love them as a couple, and I never would have guessed based on Ron's jokes that was his life.
I know, but and that's the thing is like I love Ron, and I know that's like. And I didn't like him at first because of the jokes he told on stage. But as I've gotten to know Ron, I very much like him as a person.
It was actually Gary Limoges who got me to like talk to him as a person because like, yeah, you would never guess it, but he's the nicest guy in real life.
And weirdly enough, Andrew Pollack was that way for me too.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I didn't like his onstage content at first, so I just kind of brushed him off and didn't really, I thought he wasn't a great person, but I've gotten to chat with him a few times, and I like him a lot more now that I know him a little better.
Yeah, he sits in our section, like right next to me, Karen, and like I guess it's Matt and Aaron, like whenever we're doing the open mics.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to talk with him a lot. I actually think that Andrew Pollack has some of the best. Like the jokes are fairly offensive in some ways, but I think that he has some of the best crafted jokes.
Yeah.
Like the participation trophies for living, I think, is one of the funniest bits I've heard anywhere.
He told me that one of my arms is longer than the other, and now that's
he's just playing psychological warfare.
I know,
with you.
I know. It's crazy.
It's also true of most humans, though.
Right, yeah, I know.
Well, now I'm gonna.
Right, but he's calling me out.
Well,
for
I'm
having...
a trombone player, so it's actually true for me.
Oh man, I've actually thought about getting you like. Yesterday we were just like hanging out in downtown Lebanon because we were waiting for Lauren's car to get fixed, and we wandered there was this pile of free CDs that they were giving away, and one of them, like a lot of them was band music, and one of them was
Christian band music.
and then the Iowa State University hurricane. No, it's tornadoes.
Cyclones,
Yeah, from 1992's greatest hits, and also they had a couple of trombone albums. I was like, I should just give these to Ryan, but I didn't know when the next time I was going to see you would be. Also, if you even have a CD player anymore.
Oh gosh,
no.
I don't.
Well, I have one in my computer, but it doesn't work.
Oh right, yeah.
No, it's kind of the same as not having one.
My CD drive actually fell out of my computer one time, and it's never worked again since.
My when we first started dating, one of the first gifts I ever got Ryan was sheet music for trombone for Star Wars, and it came with a CD. And I remember he tried it in his computer, and it didn't work. I ended up losing the CD. Now we just have the book somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't.
A guy that I dated in college once, because I play a lot of instruments, he got me sheet music for cello, and it was supposed to be like a bunch of John Williams scores for cello. And it had this CD in the back that was completely unmarked, and I just assumed it was a CD of the scores in the book, but it wasn't. It was like a CD of a bunch of hymns, but it was in like a sleeve that was built into the book, and I was like, something got swapped or misprinted here.
Oh my
Subliminal.
I was like, which one of these is the actual gift you're trying to give me? And he's like, the John Williams.
Man, that reminds me. Somebody posted this in one of my Simpsons groups the other day that they actually bought a compilation Simpsons DVD from like a Second and Charles like type place, and they opened it up and it was Big Gaping Asses 9 was in there. Somebody had either accidentally or on purpose sold them a DVD of The Simpsons.
Quality control at that store is terrible.
Big Gaping Asses 9.
Something that I think about a lot, and I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but one of my traumas is that when I was a kid, my mom put all of our things in a storage unit and then didn't pay the bill. And so all of our stuff, like, probably went into a storage war or something. And so when I think back on it, it's like a bunch of photo albums, but also some of my diaries. And those things were unhinged. And I'm really worried about it, honestly.
I had diaries that I kept as a kid, and I've moved so many times, I don't know where they ended up. And I'm genuinely, and I was a very proud diarist as a kid. Like, I thought I was a nice nin or something. I signed all of them. Full name, contact information.
Oh, my God.
This journal belongs to, and I'm like, yeah, it does, because there's some gems in here. And God only knows who is reading those now, and they can attribute them to me, and that terrifies me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's honestly scary.
You'll be remembered, though, maybe? No, this is not.
I wrote a lot about my extreme infatuation with AJ, the alcoholic Backstreet Boy.
Oh.
Really worried about it, even though I just resurfaced it on a recording.
What if AJ was the one who ended up with this diary, by the way, and shows up?
I hope he feels great about it and not at all concerned for his security situation.
He's like, I must find her.
I just
It's
wanted
like
to
a
tell
Cinderella
you,
scenario.
I thought I had to change my ways, but then I read how much you love me, despite the fact that I'm the alcoholic Backstreet Boy.
Sure,
and I
you-
realized I could still get tanked, and somebody out there is going to love me.
Sure,
And I've
you were
gotten-
in the 4th grade, but we can pursue this.
It's funny, AJ is nobody's favorite Backstreet Boy, generally. Because we were
Except
talking
your
about
girl.
this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
It's a look.
Oh my gosh. This is a fun topic. Like weird crushes you had as a kid.
Michelle Trachtenberg was probably the first celebrity crush from
Okay,
Harriet the
good
Spy.
one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Harriet
yeah.
the Spy. I
Harriet
loved
the
her.
Spy and Mona from Pete and Pete. Also completely age appropriate for me because she and I were the exact same age growing up. So
Let
All
me
right.
tell you, I have never had an age appropriate crush in my life. In my life.
Not once.
When you said Michelle Trachtenberg, my first thought was James Marsters. And I was like, hello.
okay,
Hey,
James Marsters
good
was a
one.
very good-looking gentleman.
Very, very good looking gentleman. I did not know he wasn't British.
Nobody did. Like that was a big deal for us. Like my sisters during like the 4th season of Buffy were like, "Hey, you know Spike isn't British, right?" I'm like, "No, get out of here."
He
Yeah.
shows up in later seasons of Warehouse 13, a sci-fi show I really love. And I was like, he does like a spot-on English or American accent here. And then the friend I was watching it with, she's like, he's not English. And I was just like, shut your whore face.
But you can never tell because the English actors who do American bits are so good at like Andrew Lincoln, for instance, from Walking Dead. Like shocked to find out he was British.
Well, English actors actually train for their job.
That is also true.
So that's the difference.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we just show up and say, "Make me a star."
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think who else I had a huge crush on. So the show True Blood came out when I was 12 years old.
Joe Manganiello.
No, Alexander Skarsgård.
Ooh, also a very good
I
one.
still have a crush on Joe Manganiello.
Yeah,
Well,
Joe
yeah,
Mag-
I
Not
still
even-
have crushes on both of those people.
Not even physically. Like, I think Joe Manganiello is too handsome and too buff, and it unsettles me. But he also is like a huge D&D nerd.
Oh, he's such.
And the weird juxtaposition of being that hot and that big of a dweeb,
Oh, yeah.
I love him.
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned this during our weird celebrity encounters episode, but I did meet Joe Manganiello one time at the NFL Players Association Awards in 2012. I got to work them as part of like the group that we did usher work for. And I actually did not know who Joe Manganiello was, and I had to look him up afterwards. And I was like, "Oh, he's Marshall's friend on How I Met Your Mother and Flash from Spider-Man." But like all the women were fawning over him, and he was like super nice to my roommate Alex and I were both big Pittsburgh fans, and he was like, "Oh man, it's so nice to meet some Steeler fans around here." And we talked Steeler stuff for like an hour. Antonio Brown, before he was the crazy problematic person he is now, was also backstage. And rather than having us work, Joe Manganiello was just like, "Come over here, let's all talk together." And we got to meet Antonio Brown, and he was just he was the nicest guy in the world, and I didn't even really know who he was. Maybe that was kind of the appeal, but.
I was standing behind Joe Manganiello in line at a Primanti Brothers once, which is the most Pittsburgh sentence that's ever been spoken.
Man, I wish I had met Joe Manganiello.
Go to Permante's in Pittsburgh. Maybe you might get your chance.
I don't know how to say
I was wearing a Pirates shirt, and he looked at me like he thought I had put it on by mistake.
But yes, going back quickly to Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes, I love him. And that's what I have to say about that. I still love him to this day.
He's played a lot of funny, like, I don't know, do you watch Atlanta at all? Mm-mm. Oh, man, everybody out there watch Atlanta. It's one of, I think, the best shows that came out in the last, like, 10 years or so. But he plays himself. There's one episode where the main woman of the series, Zazie Bates, goes, like, she's been kind of MIA in Europe the entire time they're in Europe for a season, and a couple of her friends from Atlanta who happen to be in Paris run into her, where she has transformed into this very deliberately Amelie parody, where she just goes around town having these incredibly weird and strange adventures. And one of the things is she's dating Alexander Skarsgård as himself.
I love that.
And he's like this absolute like crazy in love with her sex maniac, and she plants drugs on him, and then he comes back later on being like, "You planted drugs on me and almost ruined my career, but god damn it, I love you." And then he eats a hand. It's like the weirdest. The show in general is very weird, but Alexander Skarsgård's cameo as himself on that show was so fantastic because he was like, oh yeah, you want me to eat a hand? I'll eat a hand. I'll do anything.
Another interesting childhood crush that I had was Alan Alda.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I had no concept that it never would work or that the age difference was what it was. I just knew that I loved him.
He seems like a sweet... Actually, I had a girlfriend like 15 years ago who was very into Alan Alda, maybe in that way because she said she was raised by her grandfather mostly, and he reminded her very much of her grandfather. Like she said specifically, watching Little Miss Sunshine, where he tells Olive, "You are the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in the whole world," made her melt because it was like very similar to things her grandfather had told her growing up.
Aww. All right, Ryan, weird childhood crush, celebrity crush.
Never had one.
What?
You just say
I'm not into celebrities.
You should have just said Shannon. Seriously.
That's not, to me, like, none of my celebrity crushes feel like actual crushes.
Right.
I
Just kind of like little...
My first celebrity crush was Kirk Cameron, and I regret it to this day.
Oh, no. Oh.
First of all, I should
he
clarify.
He was a handsome guy. Still is, I guess,
I should clarify that really my crush was on Mike Seaver from Growing Pains, because I didn't know any better. Also, I didn't understand how syndication worked, so I didn't realize the age difference there. But then I found out that Kirk Cameron was an actual person and kind of a shitty one. And that was the first heartbreak of my life.
Yeah, Kirk Cameron has kind of gone like ape shit. Like his War on Christmas movie, what was it called? Saving Christmas, had at one point supplanted the top spot on IMDb's bottom 100 for a few years. I kind of wanted to see it, but also didn't want to support it. So,
yeah. So not one that you can think of?
No, I've been asked the question like everyone has, and I'm all throughout my life, and I've just said, there just isn't a celebrity that tickles my fancy.
What about like an animated character? You ever see? Listen, I got a lot of those too. Lost City of Atlantis, Milo Thatch. They tell.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Treasure Planet, Jim Hawkins.
You have a type.
I do. I really do.
It's funny because as soon as you said Lost City of Atlantis, I was like, well, is there a Treasure Planet parallel here? Because they're kind of similar movies in a lot of ways.
No, I loved both. So Treasure Planet was the one where I discovered I was bisexual. Bisexual kind of, because then it was like I was into Jim Hawkins and then that weird cat captain lady person. I was like, this might be gay or this might be bestiality. I don't know.
I hope this doesn't
It can be
awaken
both.
something.
They're not mutually exclusive.
What?
You can be both.
Yeah.
A gay bestiality.
Yeah. Let's see who else I had. So no, like animated character crushes.
Dimitri from Anastasia was a big one for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
John Cusack.
Well, I know you said like a man picks his woman based off of his favorite Disney princess.
Yeah.
And so
that totally checks out with you, by the way, Ariel. So
We have nothing in common but the red hair. Literally nothing. She gave up her entire culture at 16 years old to go live with a man she's never spoken to.
Oh no, I think I'm walking home now.
And then Hal slept on the couch tonight.
In his own house.
It's
His own house.
That's the way it goes sometimes.
So Shannon made me pick one, and I said Belle, and she was like, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
There's a lot of Belle and Shannon, I would say.
Yeah.
See, he chose right. It's like you don't know me at all.
But that's my favorite Disney princess.
Ariel?
Still. Yeah, Ariel. I had in fact, Lauren and I have talked a little bit about this, about how there seemed to be like an inception for getting me into redheaded women growing up, because there was Ariel, there was Anne of Green Gables, there was Scully. I think there was a fourth one too.
Jessica Rabbit, maybe?
That's what I was thinking.
Jessica Rabbit was never like my thing exactly.
Good, because I cannot live up to that.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's not bad. She's just drawn that way.
Oh my gosh. I was also watching last night. We watched Chicago, which was the first time in a very long time for me, and I was having a great time. And I remembered, I was like, wow, this was another like bisexual awakening for me, because all of the scantily clad women. And I probably watched that a little too young.
Especially in the cell block tango. Like.
Yeah.
I like, historically, I identify as strictly heterosexual. That's been my life experience, but I get a lot of talent and performance crushes on women.
Oh, yeah.
Almost all of my
I do the same
performance crushes, all women.
I was gonna say, because like another topic we could talk about are like same-sex celebrity crushes. Like even I identify as heterosexual too, and like, but we were talking about Josh Groban on the way to the car dealership yesterday, and like, yeah, Josh Groban, like he he's cute, but he's not like too overly handsome. He has a very good sense of humor about what he does, and is also stupidly talented. So like I think that falls into that category too. Like respecting like a same-sex celebrity crush in this case is a lot more of like respecting the talent and respecting the way that they carry themselves.
Yeah, but for me, talent crushes get so like conflated with actual crushes that I confuse it for genuine sexual attraction.
You might be a little gay.
It's not impossible.
Kinsey says everybody's a little gay.
It's
so.
not impossible. I have not ruled that out. It's just not the experience I've had.
No, I got you.
I'd also say I'm straight. I mean, I can appreciate a nice cock every once in a while. But,
Oh my god, that
for
was
the most part.
the one thing I remember from Tiger King is like Joe Exotic's like
Husband or whatever.
no, it was like his test for determining if any of his husbands were gay, which none of them were gay, but his thing was like, you like watching the porn? He's like, yeah, of course. Well, you like the guy with the big one or you like the guy with the little one? And he's like, I guess the big one? You're not that straight then. And I'm like, I don't think this is a very scientific way of determining.
I mean, it might not be scientific, but the man married 2 straight men.
Yeah, possibly 3, I think. So
I don't remember.
Also,
Tiger
I
King
think
was
it's
a weird-
concerning if you're looking to Joe Exotic for like a scientific basis for anything.
that is also true. Hal, what the hell are you doing? This is weird.
What's your definition of science?
This is Hal talking to himself after he said something weird again, being like, "Why did you just say that?"
They're just called pants hell.
They're just called. Oh my god, we went to the Millworks on Friday, and like that's a phrase like that we report. Like, I'm gonna put on my big boy pants. They're just called pants, Hal. But then there was this fantastic artist that we saw in the upper corner. Was it P.W. Murray? Was
P.D.
that
Murray, I think. Paul Murray.
Yeah, he does these like mix, like all the art is really fantastic and one of a kind, but also like the phrases that he would print on the art were fantastic. And I realized halfway going through them that my mom actually bought me 2 of his pieces of art as like a housewarming present that hang in my kitchen, including one that says "Carpe even the suckiest diem." But one of the ones that they had on there was "Put on your big boy pants," and he gave it to me for free because Paul Murray was a cool guy.
It was literally sitting right on top of the stack of cards, too. And it was like 3 seconds after Hal had gone, I'm going to put on my big boy pants. They're just called pants, Hal. And then we walk up the stairs, and there's the card. And we're like, did he just draw this because he overheard you?
And printed it downstairs.
He was fast.
That's hilarious. I love that. We were just talking about the phrase carpe diem. Ryan, I think, is fucking with me because every time I've said it over the last couple of weeks, he's like, what did you just say? I've never heard that before. And I feel like he's fucking with me and I can't figure it out.
I'm not.
He's fucking with me.
Have you ever heard the song Seize the Day from Newsies? Because that's all it is, really.
Make
Seize-
Just in Latin.
Seize the day. Yeah.
It's just that, but in Latin.
Yeah.
I've explained this to him 3 times.
Did you use Newsies?
I didn't think I had to.
When in doubt.
Oh my god.
See, this was one of the interesting things about, like, there are, like, I'm not going to pretend all of Catholic education was bad because they really had an interesting focus
You
on,
don't
like,
need to pretend.
yeah,
He's got a
like English, literature, and the arts, they were very high on, very terrible with math and science, but that's to be expected. And we learned like lots of cultural Latin phrases. In fact, we had to have a dictionary of cultural literacy that we had to define 10 terms from every single week to get more culturally literate. And carpe diem, like every Latin phrase you can imagine that's in normal like human talk, like caveat emptor,
mea
habeas-
culpa.
mea
That's
culpa.
one Catholics should
See,
really
now,
know.
I don't know those ones. Okay? There's a difference, though.
So yeah, we have about
Carpe
like.
Diem was in the Dead Poets Society, wasn't it?
I was not allowed to watch Dead Poets
It
Society.
was,
growing
and I
up.
loved Dead Poets Society.
My
It's one
parents
of
thought it was a
favorite
horror
films.
movie, so we weren't allowed to watch it.
Did they think it was like a
They thought the
haunting
dead
of a bunch
poets
of dead
came
poets?
back to life and like killed people.
That's a movie I would watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh, could we make that movie and call it Dead Poets Society? Similar to how they made like a Winnie the Pooh horror movie.
Dead Poets Society is just Dead Poets Society. There's no apostrophe.
Oh.
So if you make it Dead Poets Society, like poet apostrophe S, it's the society belonging to the dead
poets,
poets. That,
Make it a possessive.
I
yeah.
feel like I'm skirting some copyright issues here. Did
I
I,
think so,
I
too.
was more
English
thinking
saves lives.
did I find a solution?
I think so.
like the synonym route, deceased word right brotherhood,
this is the Asylum Films
And
version.
Emily Dickinson is just there like, brotherhood is chauvinist language. I'm a woman.
That's pretty good.
But her voice is very deep, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. The oh man, what was I gonna say? The other one we weren't allowed to watch too. Like there were tons of movies that my parents just didn't have like time to watch. Like Dead Presidents was another one, which I'm glad I didn't watch because it was just like a mindless like money heist movie from the 90s. But they also thought that was a horror movie, Dead Presidents.
Historically, most of our presidents are dead by now.
That is true.
Explain really quick, because we're coming down to
have
the
like 5 minutes.
5 minutes,
yeah.
okay. Explain to the audience
Yeah.
your parents' justification for like the Harry Potter situation.
Okay. So here's the thing with Harry Potter is the wizards. Well, first of all, as we know, thou shalt not suffer a witch, right? So you got to kill the witches, obviously. So
I don't remember that being in the Ten
Are your
Commandments.
parents pilgrims?
Anyway, so they were like, so witchcraft is a sin.
And real.
And real.
Let's just start this off by assuming that witchcraft is real.
Yeah. So, so their thing was, we don't mind that there's wizardry in Harry Potter. What we don't like is that the wizards are portrayed as the good guys.
Psst, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Not all of the wizards in Harry Potter are good guys. That's kind of the point of the book.
Right.
But not all of them are bad guys, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
They need them all to be
because,
bad guys.
I mean, it's
Because it's a sin.
yes. I mean, it's like
And
well,
the good guys never do that.
Yeah.
Right.
See, there's another funny thing is like a super conservative Christian girl I dated recently. We were talking about Gladiator at one point. And she's like, "Oh, I wasn't allowed to watch that as a child." I'm like, "Why exactly?" "Oh, because it's nothing but lions eating Christians the entire movie." And I'm like, "Somebody explained Gladiator to you incredibly wrong." Like, I don't think Christianity is even mentioned once in that movie, and there's
Nope.
only a lion in one scene.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, isn't it a tiger?
Maybe? I don't know. It's been a while since I've watched Gladiator.
I don't think I've ever seen Gladiator.
It's a good movie.
It's a
pretty
good
solid.
movie, yeah.
Although of the Roman gladiatorial drama, thanks. I prefer Spartacus.
Yeah, Spartacus. Well, Spartacus is more interesting for like historical purposes. I didn't even know until like Roman history is a bit of a blind spot for me, except in some places.
Well, it's pretty broad. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize until we watched the Julius Caesar docudrama series on Netflix, which is an excellent watch for anybody looking for. I didn't know Julius Caesar's first major successful military campaign as a commander was against Spartacus before he came into his own. Doing so many other interesting things. Like, are you that like
Yeah,
Ryan?
he conquered Gaul.
Yeah, and how he conquered Gaul was so interesting. Do you know like the specifics of that, Ryan?
No.
Oh my God! So what he did was like they were hopelessly outnumbered until they could get reinforcements from Rome, and what they had done was they actually boxed Vercingetorix, the king of the Gauls, into this little town that they made, essentially just completely surrounding him and his forces. But there were more Gauls coming, and the reinforcements were months away. So what they did was they built a second wall city around their wall. One wall was keeping out the reinforcements from the Gauls on the outside, and the other one was sieging the Gauls and the kings from the inside. And they were able to continue this long enough for reinforcements to come from Rome and absolutely destroy the Gauls. And
Yo,
I was
dog,
like,
I heard you like walls.
Yeah.
So we built two.
yeah. So we built two. It was a wall sandwich. It's such a batshit crazy. Like, I love it when military commanders do things that were absolutely batshit crazy and worked. Like, another great docudrama series to watch is the one about the fall of Constantinople. And, like, basically they had this giant chain for Constantinople that would keep out any war ships from trying to take it. And so what Mehmet II did was he was on a strait and he realized, the strait's only about 2 miles long. He just cut down 2 miles worth of trees and rolled all of his ships across the 2 mile strait into the other end of the bay where the chain couldn't get them and took the city that way. And I'm like, that is such a crazy thing to think. And it worked. Like, I love it when military people do batshit crazy things and it ends up working.
I like that we got here from wizards.
This is exactly how Depression Vacation podcast works.
This is our charm.
Wait, let's see if we can trace it back. Okay, logs to Caesar, to Spartacus, to Gladiator, to Misunderstanding Gladiator, to Wizards, to Christian. Yeah, okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
insane Christians. We're back.
Now I know how I'll fall asleep tonight.
Oh, God. So we have some things coming up here. Ryan and I are auditioning for The Addams Family
Yay. That's a
on
fun show.
Tuesday. So that's fun.
Good luck. Did you become a tenor in 2 weeks? By the way?
Well, I'm working on it.
And then I have 2 shows next month. I'll be on the next roast battle.
Yeah.
See how far I get this time.
You're braver than me. I couldn't be on a roast battle right now.
Man, it's I keep getting my ass kicked by the same person, and so I just
Who
have
is
to.
it? Out of curiosity.
Jeff Roser. I'm coming for you, my guy.
I don't even think I know who Jeff Roser is.
He's from like the Philly area.
Okay.
But he won both of the ones he won one of the ones I was a part of. He knocked me out, that was the final round. He knocked me out and he won. And then the last one we did, he knocked me out in the semifinals. So this is my third one, the fourth one overall. Dom Driscoll won the first one.
Yeah, I remember Dom won the first one.
Yeah.
And you get a weekend hosting at the Comedy Zone
and
if you win.
then one of the what's their podcast called? One of the handsome.
Oh, John Montague, maybe.
Yeah, he won the last one. So this is the fourth one. And Jeff is on the other side of the bracket.
Nice.
So I'm probably gonna have to go up against him. Again, for the third time, and we'll see.
I'm just imagining like a Rocky training montage on your end.
I know.
You're like, I'm ready.
Gonna have a montage.
Welcome to Shannon 3. It doesn't have the same ring to it. So yeah, the roast battle is on, I believe it's May 10th, and then I'll also be at the Castle Ring Wine Shop on May 20th.
Woo!
So that's what I have coming up.
Yeah, go see Shannon at either show. I believe the roast battle is free. Is that it? Or?
Yes, the roast battle's free.
Yeah. I've been to it a couple of times. I've never been on it because I'm not that brave. And it is a lot of fun to watch. Occasionally, because it's all improvised stuff too, like I've heard a couple of jokes on there that have absolutely devastated. Like Sunny D told one when she was against Corey Miller one time because Corey walks very stoutly, and she's like, "Oh yeah, when Corey's walking around, he's like a giant who's bad at sex. It's like fee, fi, fo, fum. I can't make a woman come." And for whatever reason, seeing that, I just couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah. Honestly, the roast battle has come up with some of my favorite bits. I still can't get over the day Corey Moore told me I looked like a pillowcase full of apples. I think about that all. No, it's
not even accurate.
I don't even care if it's accurate. That fucking threw me, and I lost it on stage. I thought it was so hilarious.
Maybe I would be good at this.
A well-written joke can be as mean as it wants, and I'll never care.
Yeah, because I do get a lot of these good I call them God spilled a person moments where you just describe somebody using weird things and it fits very perfectly.
And then, two jokes that I took that round with Corey, unfortunately, but he really did get me. One of the jokes I did was, I'm feeling pretty good about Corey because between the two of us, I'm more likely to walk away from a traffic violation. And then the other one was Corey likes to do he likes to do characters on stage. He does a lot of characters.
Oh yeah, he has that guy who saved the kids from the burning thing. So.
Yeah, and he's dressed up as Spider-Man. But just once I'd like him to see I'd like to see him do a character that can do stand-up comedy. So that's how I took that round.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I hope you guys all come out.
If I'm off of work that night, I will come out. And how do they determine it? Is it audience cheers or do they vote or?
Judges. Yeah, judges.
You just got to stack the judges like the Republicans have done. So.
So it's Mike O'Donnell and Damian Robinson. So they're
both of them like you. So.
They do. Well, that's not. But they are harsh critics.
They are.
But I do try to stand with my ass towards Damian. It's a little sweet in the pot there. Yeah.
Very cool. Lauren, do you have anything coming up of interest?
Literally never.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that then.
I just
being a person and living her life.
That was my Finch prop today. Was one of the goals was just be.
Right?
Yeah.
One of mine is I literally survived the day, and I'm like, yes.
I get that one a lot, and I feel like it's the bird knows I'm having a long week.
So I don't have any shows coming up in the future. I had an improv show this week that I missed because I had a horrible splitting headache starting Wednesday and going on the rest of the week. So I missed Sunday school this week, unfortunately. But something I am starting, which if anybody out there is interested, I've gotten a lot of interest from this, but in the next couple of months when I get the time, I'm going to be doing a short-form storytelling podcast for anybody interested. I haven't thought of a name for it yet.
I like when you say, when I get the time, as if you don't just continually keep signing yourself up for new things.
Yeah. Well, I think that it came from a lot of working on this podcast, and it's actually not the highest amount of work for something that's pretty meaningful. And I've gotten a lot of really good, I put out there, it was mostly... Originally, when I thought about this, I thought people could write short stories, and I would just do Foley and sound work for it. But most people who respond have personal stories they want to tell, which I feel is almost better. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten some really good things from a number of people who really want to share those kind of things. So I think it's going to be a fun podcast. Hopefully it won't be too much work. And yeah, if anybody out there has a story, personal, prose, poetry, if anybody has a screenplay they want to do a staged reading of, let's make it happen. You can do it on Hal's podcast, and you can come up with a name for it. I thought
It's literally an open mic, Hal.
Yeah.
It's right there.
It's like the Moth, except better. No, that's not true. But originally I thought like a good name for it would be Everybody Has a Story. I thought could be a cool name for a podcast. There are 5 fucking podcasts already called Everybody Has a Story.
What about Tell Me About It?
Ooh, that could be good. Yeah. You did name this podcast, so.
I did.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just...
Yeah, but anyway, go see Shannon at the Roast Battle and at her other show. May 20th, you said, was the other one?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And then if anybody wants to do story stuff with Hal, let me know. You know, let's just all get weird and tell stories about ourselves and put ourselves out there in fun ways.
Yes.
But anyway, thank you for our significant others for being on the show today, too.
Thank you for having
You're
me.
welcome.
This was a fun... This was almost like a double date in podcast form.
We love it.
Now I feel like an asshole for being polite about that. Thanks for having me. And he's like, you're welcome.
Yeah. And guess what? You're welcome.
Yeah.
But anyway, for Depression Vacation Podcast, I've been Hal.
I'm in Shannon.
I've been Ryan.
I've been Lauren.
And thank you all, and we'll see you next week.